Guten Tag, everyone. Today I'll be playing a Haley deck. This deck idea comes courtesy of one of my friends in my local playgroup, Leonard. He suggested this combo to me, and I've fallen in love with it enough to actually build a deck and play a video on it. So here it is. The splash screen explains it all. You start off with a clone chip, self-modifying code, or scavenge to bring out Harbinger or Cash, which you then sell to ASEOP'S pawn shop. All this while, you are activating Technical Writer, accumulating credits on it, turn after turn after turn, and eventually, when you start trashing those programs, or popping Technical Writer, or popping any of self-modifying code, clone chip, scavenge, you trigger Wasteland. And that's where all your money comes from. This seems like a very solid economy engine. The main thing is a lot of these triggers occur both on the runner's turn and the corp's turn, making it doubly effective. Wasteland can trigger on both, Haley can trigger on both, thanks to Clone Chip and SMC, and Harbinger can trigger twice. So with Harbinger, you're getting 2 installs, you're getting 2 ASEOP'S treasures. It goes very far. And yes, all these also fuel Technical Writer, and this probably makes it the best Technical Writer that you can ever come up with. I'm playing up against HP. Let's see how well my Econ engine fares. My opening hand is very awkward. I decided to keep it, even though there's no burst economy at all, simply because that it just isn't much burst economy in this deck. But since I started out with Proco, there's no reason not to keep. Proco allows me to draw the rest of my deck and give me money while I'm at it. I do have to let the Breaker Bay Eve go though. There's nothing I can do about that. So I instead poke at his centrals while they're still on ice, taking advantage of the fact that there's no ice. And I find myself stuck on 3 credits here. I could double install Wasteland, but I don't have enough credits, so I can only install 1. I need to install 1 because otherwise I will need to discard too many cards from my hand. And here I draw into daily cards, which I need to play next turn. Otherwise, I'll be really far behind on money. That's a huge problem. So that's something I'm looking to do. But on the same token, I really need to go trash that Jackson. I am definitely concerned that he has Baltic Labor ABT in his hand. I cannot accept him firing it off an ABT with the cover of Jackson Howard right now, because this would mean that he will get a lot of ice. Look at how much ice he has placed on the board. Almost none. You can be sure R&D is stacked full of ice. So I have given him the opportunity to set up, and now he has a scoring server. At least that looks like a scoring server. So I continue drawing with Proco, and finally I have enough credits to double install, making use of Haley's ability for the first time. Here I install Daily Cast and Wasteland. So now I have 2 Wastelands working for me, although none of them are triggering, because I'm not trashing anything just yet. I don't have ASEOP'S yet. Wasteland doesn't work. So I need to get some money. The best way to do that is to scavenge the cash. This will trigger Wasteland, giving me 2 credits. And then, using Haley's ability, since I've installed a cash, I can install another cash from my hand, and that gives me 6 more credits. So now I have enough money to run the Eve campaign, and I'll leave it there before running his hand and checking just to make sure there are no agendas in there. So now I finally stabilized my economy a little, but I still need to find the ASEOP'S, all crucial ASEOP'S. I think he fires ABT here, but only finds the Eli, thank goodness for that. And he puts it on the scoring remote, so you can be sure that firstly, the upgrade in the remote is either an Ash or a Caprice, and secondly, there's probably no chance of me getting in there next turn. So here I find my ASEOP'S. I'm going to force the Jackson, because his ABT fizzled, which was kind of unfortunate looking at how little ice there is on the board right now. You would expect the ABT to have done more than to res a 3-cost ice. Anyway, I finally get ASEOP'S going, and this is very crucial. This means that I can now sell my caches for 5 credits apiece thanks to Wasteland, and I can do that for the next 2 turns. So actually I have a daily cast. So for the next 3 turns, my ASEOP'S income is settled. I'm going to gain 5 credits for the next 3 turns. Total of 15 credits. That's going to be a lot of money. And you see I suddenly burst up to 18 credits. This is amazing. But I have no programs out. I have no hardware out. I can't get into any remotes or centrals yet. I'm very far behind. So I'm going to set up a bit here, get my R&D digging tools out, and then I'll trash the Eve. If he's going to be so arrogant as to play an Eve naked on the board, I'm going to trash it. He needs to get his... money is still very important for HB. Most of his ice is still unrest, keep that in mind. So never underestimate the importance of trashing asset economy. In the meantime, he gets what seems to be another agenda in the remote. I don't care. I'm going to continue setting up because I finally found my SMC. I can actually afford to do that. So here I pawn the daily cast and I begin to start digging R&D. This is the turn I can do it because I have 3 breakers, barrier, code gate, sentry. The sentry is in my hand. Installing it allows me to chain install with Haley, the SMC, which will take care of the other 2 subtypes. He can only stop me if he reses a barrier and a code gate that ends the run. So here he reses a code gate first, so I bring out my decoder. I'm down to 0 credits, so I decide to continue here, hoping that I can click through the last piece of ice, but it's unclickable. It's an architect, and that's probably one of my biggest mistakes. I was expecting to hit either a hard end run, like a next ice or something, or a clickable Bioroid, but instead I hit the worst possible ice, an architect. So now he gets a free install of an ice on R&D, triggering HB's ability, and now he gets to refresh his econ asset. Probably the Adonis that I saw in his hand, that is going in the remote, so now he can res it for free and get lots of money. That was my undoing. That was a huge mistake. Oh well, I needed 4 credits more to break that architect with the strike. Very unfortunate. He continues icing up his remote and double advances the agenda in there. So I'll let that be. I have 2 credits now, going up to 7 credits with pawning of the cash, and I continue drawing here. Don't see much useful. Nothing much useful comes up. And at the back of my mind, I keep reminding myself that I need to be concerned about the architect at the base of R&D. Strike is very bad against architect. It breaks it for 4 when Mimic can break it for 2, and that's unacceptable. So, especially knowing that HB probably runs 3 copies of Architect and is more than happy to res it for 4 credits where it cost me 4 credits to break. So what I do here is to install Artman 3 so that all Architects cost 2 to break. Now, after he scores a Global Food Initiative, which puts him at match point, I sack Clone Chip for cash. This nets me 2 credits. And since I sack a clone chip while bringing out the cash, it gets me 2 wasteland credits. Then at the start of my turn, I pawn cash for 5 credits. So you do the math. It's a lot of money for 1 cash. It's more than a lucky find with 3 paid voice pads. But it is all spent in a single indexing run. I see no agendas. But I do see a problematic component in the form of Caprice Nisei, and so I bury that right as the last card in the 5 cards that I saw. I do not want him to get access to the Caprice. I hope I get to trash it on a later turn, because once he finds the Caprice, the moment it reaches his hand, I'm doomed. He'll certainly place an R&D, and that will end everything. I can't really contest his remote now. I haven't found my barrier breaker. Getting through Eli will be a pain, and there's a lot more unrest ice that I don't know of. I mean, he's pretty poor right now, for now, and I should be able to contest the remote. But I'm not that confident, and it might just tax me way too much. I've been keeping the Asher in my hand the entire game, and since HQ is wide open, I can easily abuse this. But all his ice is so taxing, it's ridiculous. I do manage to get a couple of sack constructs on the board. These can be ASEOP'S fodder in most games, but in this game, it's pretty special. Having seen Biotic Labor from his deck, sack construct will be essential in keeping Clot on the table. There's a Clot somewhere left in my 10 card stack. Once a Clot hits the table, he'll find it very difficult to purge it off, which means he cannot fast advance. But this is very little. This doesn't say much, because if he finds an agenda, he can just easily slip it in his remote. He doesn't have the fast advance. I can't really get through that remote, especially if it's a Caprice waiting for me at the end of the server. So here I pawn the sack construct because I really need the cash. And I attempt to run R&D with 20 credits. I see an Ichi, so I'm going to break through 2 Ichis for 8 credits. It's pretty efficient with strike, but it does tax me a lot. By the time I finished with Architect, I realized I spent 14 credits on a single run just to see a single Vitruvius. I guess it's worth it. If he had found it in his hand, he would have won the game. And here I hammer HQ because by my calculations, he has drawn his Caprice Nice and I need to deny it. I do find it, I trash it. That was very important. That Caprice cannot go on the R&D that costs 14 credits to break. That is unacceptable. And so he reveals there's an Adonis in the scoring remote. That's fine. This means that he's not scoring an agenda. This gives me time to set up with the Cerberus lady that I have in my hand. Once Cerberus comes out, I can now get through his remote and all things should be good. I also have a stim hack to keep R&D locked. So he thinks that it costs 14 credits for me to get through R&D. Well, I can stim hack through and I do have enough money. But here I'm just doing the calculations right now. I need to make sure that I have enough money to both install Dog and run the stim hack in the same turn, next turn. So after a Proco draw or two, I scavenge the Shrike, allowing me to chain install using Haley with installing Dog. The reason for using Scavenge on the Shrike, which seems like a useless move, was to trigger Wasteland. This would allow me to gain 2 credits, which means that I can get through his R&D with 1 credit to spare. And this allows me to find a Vitruvius that brings me up to 4 points. Not bad for a day's work. Slowly but surely getting there. Oh wait, Biotic Labor, Agenda, Game. Whoops, no clock. Didn't find it in time. So much for being a big damn hero, or heroine in this case, as Haley is. Even though I dedicated 11 of my 15 influence to money cards, Stim Hack, Wasteland, Cash, Harbinger, I'm still not getting enough money to install my breakers and run through the servers. And that's the problem. You always compare this to Prepaid Kate. And while Prepaid Kate spends less influence on money, Prepaid Kate spends more influence on efficient breakers. And that's the key. My breakers are just too inefficient. Running R&D for 14 credits, that is unacceptable even if I spend 11 influence on money cards. Looking at the game analysis, we can see that Haley was activated 6 times throughout the game. Was it very effective? No, because the most crucial period of piloting this deck is in the early game. The early stages I was struggling very hard. For the first 5 turns, I had basically no money. And when you have no money, you cannot use Haley's ability. So you're basically dead. A dead ID. You snowball out of control later, but early on, you're just bottleneck clicking for cards and credits and making suboptimal plays. Whereas a Prepaid Kate would be zooming ahead with Lucky Finds and Sure Gambles and would actually be able to contest the Breaker Bay Grid Eve remote. And that was my downfall. The fact that I gave him 16 credits just like that allowed him to go haywire on his defenses and ensured that I would never get into his scoring remote, which was why he got 5 agenda points so quickly. Another problem is looking at Wasteland, which actually costs 2 influence. It is quite a lot of influence. And how effective was it? I installed 2 of them this game and they netted me 20 credits. 18 credits net gain, which is 9 credits per Wasteland. 9 credits per Wasteland, pretty decent, until you compare it with Prepaid Kate, where a standard prepaid voice pad will net you about 8 to 9 credits, around the same amount over the course of a game. So when you think about it that way, you quickly realize that you are paying too much influence for a card that doesn't give you more impact, and more importantly, eats up your influence for other cards that might help you out more, such as Parasite, such as Mimic Data Sucker. All these were gotten through Ichis and Architects way cheaper than what I could have. If you look at the graph again, when I first started getting my double cash engine online, that was turn 6. That was where I got my surge of income. And at turn 8, I began setting up my rig, all my programs. That's when the income went down. It went up again as I played Stim Hack and continued going on. But around this point, this is where my economy will languish. I wasn't going to be able to sustain my R&D lock for any longer. I think I only had 1 more turn left with me. After that, I will be reset to 0 credits. I'll be forced to pawn stuff that I don't want to pawn in order to keep going. And that is where yeah, this deck is not sustainable. The amount of econ it can generate is amazing, but with the breaker suite you have, it simply isn't sustainable, especially against HB. It's very unfortunate, but that's the truth. So my final conclusion on this deck, it is not as shiny as it looks, but for those of you who are inclined towards decks with lots of moving parts, playing this out in real life will be very satisfying as you move everything around the table turn after turn and generate cash from 5 different sources in one fell swoop. It is indeed satisfying when it happens. So it's worth a try. Go bring it to your local game night store. It'll be fun. Thanks for watching. Happy net running. Goodbye.